years have come and gone since that day. How many years have I waited for this moment? For the one that stood alone against the storm. For the one they called the Warrior of Light.
Welcome to another video in which I want to articulate and summarize my initial experiences and thoughts on the 6.1 PvP in Final Fantasy XIV, and what it might actually need to become the best PvP in the market right now. And of course, you may ask now, as a PvP maniac, why haven't you talked about Final Fantasy XIV PvP before? The reason and answer to this video is, it wasn't fun and accessible, which definitely changed since the new Crystalline Conflict and had been introduced together with a whole package of changes to the skills and combat systems of each job. Really, the first time since my career as Final Fantasy XIV player or content creator, I am hyped about making PvP guides for each job or the whole system in general, and I just started working on my Dragoon guide, so more guides and videos about this coming very soon. First of all, what I consider to be the most important change is that skills and attacks feel impactful again, instead of having a skill kit arsenal resembling a really bad homage to the one we use in PvE. Skills now grant a way better identity to each job while not wasting too much energy of bloating rotations to make them complex and meaningful, even though I was clearly thinking this would be required like it is in PvE. However, it turns out that Square Enix or Team Yoshida and the man himself seem to have a very good understanding of this aspect. Though offering only 6 active clickable buttons to each job, they pulled off a phenomenal gameplay experience with full interaction of the kit of your enemy. No job feels like they lack a significant amount of answers to what other jobs throw into their face. And oh boy, those limit breaks. Chapeau Yoshida, chapeau. These are just genius. Yes, not balanced completely, and some jobs stand out like Dragoon, Samurai or Ninja, while limit breaks of Dancer, Gunbreaker or Reaper feel a bit underwhelming. Yet nothing a small change and balancing here and there couldn't address, so I'm hopeful and positive about the next patch bringing those changes. I mean, nobody could expect this amazing and fun to play combat system when reading the "we did some significant changes to PvP" combat sentence. No sir, you did a whole rework, which was very much needed. Above that, what I personally thought but some parts of the community demented, there is demand for PvP. It's just nothing less than human nature to sometimes compete in direct battle, instead of doing so with boring numbers on certain parsing web pages. It is a total different thing, and the heavy participation and instant queues are perfect proof for this. But it is indeed time for some more details, right? The first thing for me is nothing less than a stroke of genius from the developers of this system, featuring Recuperate, Purify and the standard issue Elixir. What seems to be a small trait to push out some self-healing for yourself and to which each job has access to naturally, turns out to be the game-changing element and something that lets good players stand out to those having just started. Not only that using MP, which naturally recovers over time, grants you access to healing, but that this is able to power heal against a whole burst of incoming threats staged by the enemy team. It does indeed offer a secondary mechanic to stand out to your competition, even though your job might be in a disadvantage to other jobs, automatically granting some neutral kit to have access to. I mean, just imagine this being bound to self-healing defined jobs like a red mage or healers in general. Not only that healers would be required to win a match, but also players would experience much discontent with how other jobs beat them in the face of face combat. With this mechanic, all have equal tools and devices to defend or proactively take the advantage with keen usage of this backup mechanic, except for some balancing issues of course. But you're right, the story doesn't even end here, as Guard is another way to keep death away from your doorstep, and not only that, it can also open up space for risky catch and bait maneuvers that might strike your enemy off guard or wasting precious burst opportunities. Or when used properly, this ability can help to utilize team play in a way that has never been in this game before, because healers now can finally heal you against some insane burst happening, and it is just a matter of strategy and timing in opposition to the very chaotic "hey mates, smash in all your burst into that person to kill it immediately," or when healers could easily just spam heals and avoid death without any form of difficulty in doing so. Leading to another masterpiece of game development. Healers are no longer gods we have to ask for their favor and blessing because they're an essential part of the team. especially when looking at how impactful crowd control is. You can achieve victory without one, but on the other hand granting them the needed compensation in form of damage and control over the battle other than just blindly spamming heals. I really think some content creators or streamers tend to trash onto developer decisions, or with stuff like, how can you not understand your own game? Or why keep ruining Shadowlands? Or titles like that. And I honestly believe that I'm not the only one repeating these sentences. On the other hand, I have to fully admit that these changes are so good and so well thought out, even my longtime MMO experience could not make up these solutions to fix Final Fantasy XIV PvP. And my ideas would have looked much different and certainly not anywhere as good. No, this is not the "oh, we love you Yoshi-P, our god and master" nonsense. This is genuine respect and appreciation for the development and ideas that led to this patched PvP system, especially for the risks they have taken to keep this behind closed doors just to give us a very well thought out combat system that brings a lot of fun for nearly all players participating. Yes, it is not perfect, but the starting idea behind it is. I'm just baffled and astonished how they managed to create something so enjoyable and fun to be part of, while developing a groundbreaking finale to the Heidelin and Zodiac plot in the form of the Endwalker main scenario quest. But of course, to offer as much help as I can to improve this system in the future and polish it to maybe become the best PvP of any MMO on the market, let me talk about some of its issues as well and how I would improve them. First of all, rewards and the player's diversity. No, I don't need the full-fledged PvP gear like it always had been a thing in WoW, especially if that serves as another contributing factor to hold the weak low and make the strong even stronger. But you know how it works. Even a small reward, the slightest amount of stat advantage like a 1% bonus damage on a full PvP set, would be something I would hope for, as it gives you something for the long-time motivation, which is mandatory to look at when developing new systems. Crazy thought, but I honestly believe that this motivation, besides the aspect of progress, offers hope. Hope to still miss this 1%, and this being the reason for holding back your power, giving enemies the advantage, and that is part of the reason they are defeating you. Yes, being hit in the weak spot or lacking experience to fight your enemies on equal levels is mitigated by hope, which can be a significant factor to keep you motivated. Remember the moment when you fought people with Gladiator or high-ranked weapons back in WoW, and you could use that as an excuse for yourself why the game ended up in defeat? Surely, this can create bad excuses for not becoming a better player, but when looking at motivation, it can form the only thing keeping you back from quitting or giving up. So gear does matter and should always be at least some part of a game. Which leads us to player diversity. All jobs play different now. Check. All jobs have unique skill sets that feel well thought out and made for different situations. Check. All jobs have aspects for the player to play slightly different than others do. Partially check. And that is exactly where some further innovation has to take place. And to make it clear, no, I don't want a covenant system binding the player to annoying dailies or even more annoying plot lines if at any time they want to change their relationship. However, the idea behind it is not bad. And the best and easiest way to introduce this to Final Fantasy XIV would be 3 passive traits to choose from, which can be swapped at the start of the match then. A really basic and simple method would be to boost stats like go for 5% damage, 5% mitigation and healing, or 10% more health, for example. And if that succeeds, I decide to become a tanky red mage or dragoon because my enemies have 3 ranged bursters and a samurai, who are definitely smelling their prey through closed gates already. This wouldn't be a bad idea, right? Especially as this would rebalance some other issues again, and there cannot be one single optimal way to play this out, as you would have to react to each setup individually. Wait, why not combining both of these aspects, so you can choose to have more DPS focused gear and more tank focused gear, for example, so that one red mage or summoner has much higher survivability and the other goes all in with damage, while offering space for rewards at higher ranks or for currency received when playing much. I mean, it's not like we never had anything like this in Final Fantasy XIV. In Heavensward, for example, it had been mandatory to fine-tune the sync down gear so that you get critical hit on each piece, for example. This seemed to be trivial, but it definitely wasn't. My Bard Burst looked and felt insanely different with random gear compared to highly optimized gear. Yes, I know, they want to make it as casual friendly as possible, but when you have played a single game in Crystal Ladder already, there are actual good players fighting each other. So why not progressively scaling the complexity level of the system and the long-time progression it could offer? So the higher you go, the more options you have to differ your playstyle. That would be amazing. Next up, there's one big failure that killed the entire Shadowlands PvP community, which Square needs to be aware of and handle accordingly. Quick balancing patches need to be thrown out as quick as possible. There literally had been moonkins one-shotting you for an entire month or even longer, until they nerfed the whole mechanic by up to 80%. 2 entire charges have been removed from the Covenant ability to balance that damage output. But even afterwards, there had been a cheesy way to make it broken again, pairing up a moonkin with a heal paladin that can stun targets and then they get killed by the laser boomy. And here we can perfectly hop over to Crystalline Mean, where 2 jobs are literally deleting a whole team with their power, especially paired up in a combo, Warrior and White Mage. 2 AoE stuns with insane range and executed by jobs that still deal tons of damage by themselves and have the highest survivability right now is simply not acceptable in terms of balancing. So aspects like these have to be pinpointed out very quickly and rebalanced in less than 2 weeks. Otherwise, people will get frustrated and might give up on playing the game, especially with other jobs than these 2. Like I said, fun has to come first, but balancing needs to follow very quickly to preserve that fun. I really hope Square is on the same boat on this topic, especially when you can easily track trends on a ladder. Wait, you can't, because just the player is visible there and not the job they participated with. I hope they have an internal metric about this at least. And of course, mentioning this, Reaper, Dancer and maybe Gunbreaker, grant these jobs some love as well, please. Alright, last but not least, solo queue. While I do know that this is the only possible solution to make queue times a playable experience, especially some weeks in the future, there should at least be an alternative to how you can queue up for a different mode, with different ladders or no ladders at all, namely with your friends together. Yes, I'm also one of those people hoping for a solo queue in WoW for decades, but not having the opposite teamplay version is definitely not the best solution either. Just in my personal example, my wife and I both loved the new PvP system and we enjoyed it very much over the Easter weekend. However, the time we could play together didn't last long and playing against each other can get you even more frustrated. And while I might not be in the majority of player base, with a static partner at my side to play these games with me together, I dare believe there are many others that want to queue up with their friends or partners, and if there would be a possibility at all, we would grab it. I mean, moments of joy are always more impactful when being shared with others, right? But Despi, wouldn't that lead to a less populated queue in general? Oh, good that you ask, because I already have an idea how to fix it. If you queue up for a pre-made queue from 2 to 5 people in total, after 2 or 3 minutes of no queue pop, you queued back to normal solo queue, until you have done the next match. And of course, both ladders need to be separate. Furthermore, if one team is in Discord or other TeamSpeak spin-offs, leading to a total destruction of other teams that queue up with less than 5 players, they could be forced to split up their team from time to time. For example, to play in smaller pre-made sizes, to refresh the party finder a bit, or even have them face each other in battle to not grant them astronomical rankings. But of course, this is just an idea and you might have found even better ones already. So let me hear your thoughts and ideas in the comment section, so that Square might be able to hear that feedback as well. Alright, the TLDR, and to sum it up again, the PvP we got in 6.1 has the potential to be insanely good and competitive, while taking casual players with it on its journey, which is indeed a genius move from Team Yoshida and something I could not imagine myself to be possible. And while this is a great start, the more they have to work on its longevity and long-time success to first motivate the player for playing, with rewards that don't turn you into an unbeatable warhorse of destruction for newcomers, but something that slightly stands out to the state of when you have started yourself. Second, granting players the options to differentiate from other players, even inside of choosing the same job, while attaching this to a complexity scaler that rises with higher rankings or player experience. Third, make it even more accessible for all sorts of players by pushing out balancing very quick in the form of regular balancing patches. A rule of thumb here is more patches with slight changes over less patches with big changes, of course. And last but not least, how the queue is designed. We love the solo queue, but not being able to play with friends, family or Ricardo Milos is and will be a bummer for many players that could definitely be solved without harming the solo queue experience. And above these wishes, remember, this is actually the first time I'm seriously talking about PvP in Final Fantasy and queues are still insanely fast. So Square, you did a sick move, and if you continue doing these sick moves, we will follow. So have fun in Crystalline Conflict or Frontlines, which could be improved and updated as well, and leave a like and sub for many PvP job guides coming on this channel. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep loving Final Fantasy.